please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Mr. Hussain, coming to you as well onto that one. I mean, we've heard all of you, and we do understand that just the MSP hike doesn't really break it for us, because consumer pricing is one part of it, the wholesale, the retail, the farmer's price. There are three different prices that prevail in India, and the biggest concern really still continues to be on whether or not we will actually see buying happen at the MSP price. Is the government going to procure it? Because what methodology is the government going to go on with this is something that we will of course understand when that press conference happens at 1:30. But how is this going to be implemented? Are the states on with this? Because we've seen MP go on with something else. Maharashtra has had its own way of doing it. Telangana worked on a direct debit into farmers' account. Would you see the states then being given free hand to implement it the way they want it? Or do you see the central government actually laying out a procedure for that?
No, some procedure will be laid out by the central government, but it is unlikely that the procurement of all the commodities will be on the lines of wheat and rice.
Right.
See, in case of wheat and rice, it is the Food Corporation of India and the state governments who distribute these grains under the public distribution system. Therefore, grains are physically needed. In case of other commodities, the grains or the commodities are not physically required by the government. So I imagine that for other commodities, various alternatives will be given to these state governments, including price deficiency payment, with which Madhya Pradesh experimented last year. See, this grain procurement of wheat and paddy has been going on for about 50 years now. And yet, there are several states in India, entire northeast, for example, hardly procures any paddy. In Assam, we grow paddy. In Manipur, paddy is grown. But there is no procurement because there is no machinery. The state governments are too ill-equipped to undertake procurement. The center is also not pushing for that. So Bihar, a large state like Bihar, Jharkhand, even West Bengal, they are not procuring very effectively. However, in the last 10 years, we have seen that Odisha and Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh have put into place a robust system for procurement of paddy, and Madhya Pradesh in case of wheat also. So it is unlikely that physical procurement of wheat will be encouraged by the central government. There will be a number of alternatives given to the states, and we have to see how they are going to actually implement it.
Well, the actual procurements will actually open it yet another Pandora's box, because then we're talking about grading, assaying, quality, which farmer, what state, what area, and of course, storage costs and keeping the quality intact. So it doesn't really end there, does that, Mr. Hussain? But coming to you, Avik, and this really is about state-wise yet again, because we have seen the farm loan waivers happen, and as Mr. Gupta was also saying, the states are already over-borrowing here, with the procurement being put on them as well. And that's not the end of it, because it's just one part of it, and a lot will need to be done on agriculture. What are those 2 or 3 points that you think the government will have to look into very soon if they have to ensure that this MSP price hike actually does translate?
As I've said, announcement of an higher MSP is good. Now that has to become a procurement policy. And for the procurement policy, there are 2 parts. The state governments also procure, by the way. It's not just under the National Food Security Act that the central government procures. Many states have additional food grain schemes for which they procure. That's one area where the central government can influence the states in which they are in power to increase the purchase of food grains. The second and most important aspect is better management of agri-markets. If the central government is announcing MSP, there has to be some sanctity to MSP. And the sanctity can come through enforcement. And that enforcement is missing today. I agree with all the other panelists that it's not the government's job to procure all the food grain of all varieties and types being produced in the country. But the central government cannot just stop at announcing grand prices for political purposes. It must translate that announcement into action on the ground, and that can happen by monitoring and enforcing the MSP. It has 3 months' time now. If by October a robust mechanism for enforcement of MSP is put in place in the major procurement states, the farmers will actually be happy. They will get the price and they will get the offtake, because price by itself means nothing unless there is offtake. So a combination of these two factors will somewhat alleviate the problems, the agrarian crisis that is raging through the country.
Mr. Saha, on an average, how much does the central as well as the state government procure, since weak procurement is clearly, one of the big hurdles? So what is the current procurement rate?
There is no fixed fraction. The central government procures strictly according to the National Food Security Act, which has a schedule which gives all the states and how much the states will receive. So one of the states, to give you an example, is Chhattisgarh, which has told the central government that you don't have to procure for us, we will procure ourselves. So that is a fixed quantity under the NFSA. Now, all the states do not have additional food grain schemes. Let's say Tamil Nadu has that free food grain scheme. West Bengal has some additional food grain schemes. So these states are procuring to keep their state commitments in place. But there is no ratio between center and state so far as procurement is concerned. That's another problem with MSP. It is not within any legal framework. It's a discretionary, welfare-oriented political action. What farmers actually need is to have MSP as a right. As consumers, we have MRP as a right. If somebody is selling us something above MRP, we have a complaint mechanism, a punishment mechanism. If a trader purchases below MSP, nothing happens to him. So that's the point I was trying to get at, that there must be a legal framework, there must be intent to translate price into procurement.
All right. Okay. Thanks so much, sir.